Megadeth was kicked out of the tour after 6 shows because of Dave Mustaine's behavior.
That is not fact. We got kicked off after 3 shows.
It said that you landed your gig as Metallica's lead guitarist without even having to audition. That's true?
Yeah.
Were they familiar with your guitar playing already? And no, not at all?
Mm-mm.
Were there actual auditions, or was it just you were there and they're like, just come play with us, man?
Well, what happened was we'd gone to Ron McGovney's parents' house where he was living, and they had a little area, I don't even know what you call it because I'm not a realtor, but you know, when you have a bunch of condos next to each other, there was like a driveway that went back, and there were several houses that were duplexes that were lined up down the street. And so Ron had his own duplex with a garage that we had for rehearsing, and I went in there and I set my stuff up, and I was just tuning my guitar, and I came in and I said, okay, so you know, are we gonna do the audition? They said, no, you got the job, and I was just warming up. So I think what they heard pretty much impressed them to the point where they didn't need to do that. Yeah. And James wasn't playing guitar at the time too. I don't know if you've seen those pictures of him where he's got his mic stand and I'm the only one with the guitar. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty big load to take, being the only guitar player in a band.
Yeah. In Megadeth, you were given the nicknames Junior and Dave Jr. to differentiate yourself from Dave Mustaine.
That's partial fact. Okay. And there's a little fictitious story that goes behind that, which is also fact. Friction, yeah. It is basically the guy that did the very first artwork for us, which was going to be the Killing Is My Business cover, which actually became the cover on the reissue of it. His name is Peyton Tuttle, and we were in the grocery store one day, and the word junior fell out of his mouth because I just moved to LA from the farm in Minnesota, and and he was making fun of me for being wet behind the ears like I just fell off the turnip truck from Minnesota, right? Okay. And so he goes, you're like a junior, and Dave Mustaine heard that. we were shopping for groceries, and he started laughing. He goes, Junior, that is awesome. So that's the name that stuck for a long time.
Right. That never seemed like demoralizing in any way.
Oh, it was completely demoralizing. They all loved it. I hated it. That's why I hated it. But you know, it's one of those names that now it's kind of just, it's kind of stuck, you know. So fans lots of times go, Junior, you know, so it's like, all right, I get you.
Do the band still call you Junior sometimes?
Yeah, even like Gary Holt, you know, from Exodus. You
Gary
know,
will call you Junior,
you know. So
your musical partnership with David Ellefson began after he asked you to buy him cigarettes. You refused, but a few minutes later he knocked on your door again and asked you to buy him beer. You said, now you're talking, and you guys spent the night talking music together.
We spent the night drinking.
Yeah, okay, not talking music so much?
No, I was listening to him talk music, and I just wanted to drink his beer.
Okay, so he paid.
He did. He, you know, I had just come back from being in Metallica and started over again, so I was living on my own up there, and he'd come out, and he still had his dad's credit card from Minnesota, and his dad was very, very supportive, really great man. He's passed away. So, you know, Dave, it was easy for him to go and get a case of beer.
Sure.
You know, you just had to kind of, you know, not do it too often, or guilt would come in, and, you know, his dad would call up and, you know, say, hey, you know, you guys need to tone it down a little bit. So there was always that parachute there, you know, for him, which was great. And, you know, I got to tell you, honestly, sometimes I wonder why he stuck it out, because, you know, he had a place that he could go to. I didn't, you know, so he could always have gone home. He could always, you know, have said, hey, Dad, you know what, I'm going to quit. I'm going to, you know, go do something different. I'm going to get in another band. You know, no more, you know, us living in a car in Los Angeles. But he stayed, and that's a big testimony to Dave and who he is as a person, and his integrity and his belief in this band.
After 6 months of unsuccessfully searching for vocalists for Megadeth, it was decided that Dave Mustaine would front.
How many years?
No, after 6 months of you, was it longer than that?
It was actually 6 months, exactly. That is fact, because we formed technically in June of 1983, and it was on New Year's Eve of that same year that we got one more singer flaked out on his audition. And I think it was too metal for him, so he flaked out. And finally, Dave just stood up to the mic and started singing. And and after he sang, and he almost passed out because he wasn't really a singer. You know what I mean? When you sing songs like Megadeth and you don't breathe and all that kind of stuff, it's like he almost passed out and his face turned red. I said, dude, that was awesome. You're the singer, man. You got to do this. So he stepped up and tried it again, and you know, after a couple of tries, he was the man.
In 1985, you were given $8,000 by Combat Records to produce Megadeth's new album. The debut album, rather. And you guys ended up spending half of it on drugs, alcohol, and food. Food really is not that big a deal. I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Who needs food when you have drugs and alcohol, right? I mean.
And this caused you guys to fire the original producer and produce it yourselves.
Again, friction. The 8,000 true, the 4,000, the drugs and booze, yes, all true. We mostly got through with Carrot Faye, the original co-producer of the record. I mean, technically, I guess he finished it, but at some point, we just parted ways and went on our own and finished the mixing. So that is, I'd say 98% fact.
Okay,
yeah.
So, lots of friction.
There's always a gray area in these things, especially because they were 30 years ago, right?
It said that your audition for Megadeth, it said that you received a tip from Jeff Loomis. But then another page said that Ron Lafitte, a member of Capital Management, is the one who suggested you go.
Neither of those is true.
Neither is true.
Neither of them is true.
So what happened?
I had a friend, still a good friend of mine named Bob Nalbandian. Right now he's doing some fantastic documentaries on heavy metal and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Brilliant guy. He's been my friend since forever. And he heard about Megadeth's audition. He called me up and said, dude, they're looking for a guitar player. If you're interested, call Ron Lafitte, who was Megadeth's manager at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't know anybody in the band or Lafitte, and I called, and that's what happened.
Dimebag Darrell almost became, of course, Pantera fame, almost became a member of Megadeth, but he didn't want to join a band without his brother Vinnie Paul also being in the band. And because you had already hired Nick Menza, you were forced to turn Dime down.
That is so close to fact. All of it's true, except at the time, Chuck Wheeler was still our drummer. So the Nick Menza part is not there yet. Chuck would leave, Nick would come in. So you're bending the truth toward what would become fact.
But you had a drummer and therefore couldn't
Yes, that is true. And Dime, he said if I would take the gig, I'd have to come with my brother, and we actually had a drummer. Yep.
God,
Yeah.
you just imagine how that would have changed just the history of music and
Yeah,
metal.
Pantera Death or Megaterra or something, right?
Jeez. It said that you were initially rejected for Megadeth because you had multicolored hair.
No, I was never rejected, but I did have multicolored hair.
Yeah, okay.
And it might have caused a stir among the, if they were having any meetings about me in the band, they might have talked about it, but no one said.
Okay.
I basically got the gig the day of the audition.
Right, that's what I had always heard.
And, but I would have been happy to adjust it. I mean, I didn't have multicolored hair on purpose. I was really broke and like borderline homeless, living with girls who I didn't even know who they were.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I didn't have the type of money to attend like proper salons and stuff. So I might have colored my hair at one time and it halfway grew out.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was trying to do some kind of trendy half-half type of thing. It just was what it was.
It said that you fired Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson after they pawned band equipment for drug money. That's true. Okay, other posts contradicted that, saying that only one of them did, other ones were,
They both did. They both did. And Chris would tell you that, and David Ellefson would tell you that. Gar would tell you that. Gar's brother would tell you that. Gar's ex-girlfriend would tell you that. Chris Poland's girlfriend would tell you that. Chris's manager would tell you that. Any of our managers would have told you that. And it's what the nature of the disease is.
Sure.
Whenever we had to go on tour, part of the beginning of the tour started up with us traveling around town to all the pawn shops to collect Gar symbols.
Okay.
So, and that happened several times, and there's only so much you can take of that, I mean, go hawk your own stuff. Don't take my stuff.
Former guitarist Chris Poland was accused of selling the band's equipment to buy heroin.
That was, the accusation is true.
But no definite proof?
Well, you know, here's the thing. Me and Chris are buddies. And actually, one day a bass went missing out of my closet, and I don't know where it went. And it was a plexiglass Dan Armstrong bass. And it's one day I happened to think, I go, wait a minute, that bass isn't around here anymore. So Chris and I had a conversation about it. And
Conversation?
A conversation, yeah. And everything's good between at least me and him. Everything is fine.
Really?
So, yeah.
Was it?
Well, here's the thing you got to realize. When you're doing a lot of drugs, things just go missing, right? You know? And it's usually never your wallet or things like that, because those are obvious. So things that are stashed in closets and deep down in the storage unit, sometimes things go missing. And you forget, like, did I space that out or did someone take that?
Oh, okay. So he was able to use that to his advantage, possibly.
Well,
friction.
Let's call it friction.
All right. It said that for Countdown to Extinction, yourself and Dave Ellefson were especially disappointed that Megadeth did not win the Grammy.
I think maybe what that is, they have the Grammy Awards, right? And I hope my memory is correct on this. Dave Ellefson and I were the only ones who went to it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So we actually went to the ceremony.
Sure.
And we drive in there, we get in there, everybody's, you guys are definitely going to get it. You guys are, everybody's, you know, blowing sunshine up our skirts about this. And I didn't really know who the other bands were. I mean, Nine Inch Nails was in there, and we knew them, we liked them.
Sure.
But it wasn't like they were like all over the charts and they had a history. They'd just come out. You know, so we liked them, but we had no idea. I think they got it. I think they got the Grammy.
Was it Wish that they got it for? Or
it was their debut music. But anyway, we got in there. Everybody was like telling us we were going to get it. We didn't get it, and our car hadn't even parked yet. They read our thing off first, or early in the thing, and we left, and our car didn't even have a parking space yet, so we left. But I don't think we were totally disappointed or down about it. I mean, the awards don't really mean much, especially in metal.
While supporting Aerosmith on their Get a Grip tour, Megadeth was kicked out of the tour after 6 shows because of Dave Mustaine's behavior.
That is not fact. We got kicked off after 3 shows.
3 shows?
Yes, yes. It was 3 shows. This stuff is pretty chill. Who writes all this? They seem to remember most of this stuff better than us.
Not me.
Yeah. We actually made the opening paragraph of a chapter in the Aerosmith book. I was one day I was like flipping through it, and all of a sudden, then we were on tour with Megadeth, and that story follows. Yeah.
It was that bad that it made
it in the book.
The beginning of these books with people with their autobiographies, it's always the worst possible scenario that they go to first to kick off the book.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like we were all good friends and we conquered the world together. It was then we got thrown off the tour, right?
Yeah. Oh boy. All right.
It's one way to make history.
It said that you heavily encouraged Dave Mustaine to indulge in his pop sensibilities for the record.
That and heavier stuff too.
Oh, so the dynamics.
I wanted it to be like either or and both. Like I didn't want it to be down the middle.
Like you were talking about Japanese music almost.
Yeah, I wanted like, for example, like you have a band like X Japan, who I was into at the time. They have these ultra heavy metal. Sounds kind of like new wave of British heavy metal songs on 10.
Sure.
And then they have these like Barry Manilow ballads.
Yeah.
And it's that contrast that really appealed to me. And in Megadeth, I thought with a name like Megadeth, we should be fucking heavy as fuck. And then we could afford to have something that's like a, you know, not a poppy ballad, but like kind of a ballad that works. Like I have a lot of respect for Metallica, and they did a ballad and it still sounded like them. And I'm like, why can't we do something like that, you know? And so I wanted to do really, really heavy stuff and something that could also appeal to people who don't like their tempos that fast. And there's room for everything. And actually all of us at that time cooperated as best as we could, and there was no fighting about anything as far as I remember.
In 2002, you developed radial neuropathy after falling asleep with your left arm over the back of a chair. This left you unable to grasp or even make a fist with your left hand. It took you 4 months of therapy 5 days a week to teach your left hand how to play guitar again. That's true.
Most of that's true. It was 17 months before I played guitar again.
17 months, geez.
Yeah.
It also said during your recovery that you received electroshock therapy.
Well, it's not like, the Shutter Island or some
Right.
shit like that,
Yeah.
dude, come on. It's a
I had like cuckoo's nest pictures going on.
No. It's called a TENS machine. It's a transcutaneous electronic nerve stimulation device where they put this, the acronym is TENS.
Okay.
So transcutaneous, your skin, electronic nerve stimulator. So it's kind of like, sometimes if someone hits this funny bone in there, how that makes that nerve jump up like that. So what it does is it makes the muscle contract. And I had where there was atrophy in here because the hand wasn't lifting up. Do me a favor, squeeze right here on that side. Now do it on the other side and see the difference in the thickness there.
Oh yeah.
See, that's because the
Absolutely.
the brain stopped talking to the muscle and the muscle withered, no matter how bad I wanted it to work. And that's one of those things that they do with the beauty and advancement of nerve damage rehabilitation is they use this electric impulse to, so I'm not sitting there with the wallet in my mouth, I was actually probably smoking a cigarette at the time and watching the news or something dumb, so.
Okay, good.
It said that you left Megadeth because you got tired of playing metal at that time and felt like you were not evolving as a musician.
I don't know about tired of playing metal, but tired of kind of holding the flag up for traditional metal.
Gotcha.
Which is what I saw happening. And I just needed to, there was so much more that I wanted to do, so much more musically I had to say. And I thought that Megadeth could go on with their goals a lot better with a different person in tow. And they did. They got a lot of great guys who are more suited to what they were trying to do than I was. So I think it was a win-win for everybody.
You began to make amends with Dave Mustaine over dinner on Christmas 2005.
Partial fact. Yes, over dinner. I believe it was 2005, but it was not Christmas. It was actually earlier in the month. It was around probably early December, late November, actually.
Okay.
Friction.
All right, last one for you. 2010, you receive a text from Sean, the drummer, obviously, saying, if there was ever a time for you and Dave to talk, now is it. That text led to the return, and you felt like you had never left once you were back.
That is absolute fact.
Facts.
That one is completely true right there.
Last one for you. The Dystopia album. It said that the album was influenced by a certain urgency following the death of Slayer guitarist Jeff Hanneman because it gave you a new sense of your own mortality. That's true? No?
No. The parts of that are true. When Jeff died, it was sad for me, sad for us all. I'd like to say I was closer with Jeff, but I wasn't. I'm not one of those guys that'll say like, "Oh, we're friends," and us not be. We were friendly towards one another, but that was the extent of it. And when he died. I did look at my own mortality. You see these things where, people are just, they're not taking care of themselves and it's tragic. 'Cause I on the inside, there's days I wake up, I feel 100. There's other days I wake up and I'm ready to roar. But, that's the physical part. The spiritual part, the mentality inside of me, like, I'm probably happier right now to be able to sit here in New York talking about my career and just knowing that there's going to be music in a couple hours than I've ever been in my life with any of the things that came along with it, the money, the drugs, the houses, all that kind of stuff. Just to know that in a couple hours we're going to be having fun and playing Dystopia for these people.
Yeah.